Today we'll discuss hypothesis testing, a brief introduction to hypothesis testing, let's say. Now, what is the objective of hypothesis testing? The objective is that we want to draw inference or conclusion for population parameter using sample data. The data collected is sample, and once we do the test, the inference is not only on for the sample, it is for the entire population. In the layman's language, we can say that I have collected data for a sample. Using the sample data, I am guessing regarding the population parameter. This guessing is based on mathematical and statistical tools, hence calling it hypothesize. For example, if I have to determine whether men in city A are taller than men in city B, what are my options? First option is to collect height measurement for every man in city A and city B, summarize the data, that is, we will compare the mean, and then my second option would be I'll go for a sample size. So we'll collect height measurement for a sample of men in city A and city B, summarize the data, perform a hypothesis test, and draw conclusion for the entire population. Now we can easily see that effort required for option 1 is way too higher, and the procedure would be quite cumbersome, time taking, and money intensive than option 2. Now, what are the steps for hypothesis testing? Given here are steps for performing hypothesis testing. Now, the steps might look too many, but we'll go each step one by one. So the first 4 steps are very critical, because here we actually see the data and put our brains together and decide which test to perform. So we'll see the Y measure and the data type, then X factor and the data type, and based on the Y and X we'll decide for the parameter for comparison. Like in the previous example about men in city A and city B, the parameter for comparison was mean. Then we'll go for test for comparison. So let's focus on the first 4 steps first. Here we are given 5 examples of for hypothesis testing. Now, example 1 is to compare standard deviation in cutlet diameters of 2 production units. Then the second scenario would be to compare average cutlet diameters of 2 production unit. Third would be to compare standard deviation of lap time of 4 Formula 1 cars, and then to compare average lap time of 4 Formula 1 cars. The fifth example would be to compare percentage of successful candidates from 2 coaching institutes. Now we'll see what's the Y measure and the data type. Now for example 1 and 2, what are we measuring? We are measuring cutlet diameter, and the data is continuous. Then for the third one, we are calculating lap time, so it's continuous. For fourth one also, it's lap time which is continuous. For the fifth one, we are comparing pass percentage. So this is not a continuous data, it is a discrete data. Now, how to differentiate between continuous and discrete? Well, like cutlet diameter, we are measuring diameter which will be in centimeter or millimeter. Lap time we are measuring in seconds. So we have units, we have some units like millimeter, centimeter, kg, lumen or seconds. Then we have continuous data When we are talking about pass percentages or proportion, then it is a discrete data. Now we are discussing X factors and data type. For X factors, for the first one, how many production units are there? 2. So it's discrete, 2 categories. Similarly, for the second example, it's discrete, 2 categories. Third one, discrete, 4 categories. Fourth one, discrete, 4 categories. And fifth one, discrete, 2 categories. Now we are done with Y measure and data type and X factors and data type. So what are we comparing? What is the parameter for comparison? So for the first one, we are comparing standard deviation. So it is the variance that we are comparing. That is variation. For the second one, average cutlet diameter, it's mean. Again, for the third one, it's variance. Fourth one, it's mean. And the fifth one, we are comparing proportions. So based on these 3 steps, we want to conclude what's the test we want to perform. So we'll use this table, and how to use this table I'll tell you. Like for example 1, Y measure was continuous, X factor were discrete 2 categories, and parameter for comparison was variance. So let's see. We'll go in this table, and here where my cursor is moving, you can see that we have for 2 groups, compare variance A versus variance B. The test to be performed is F test. Similarly, for the other scenarios, we can find out the test we need to perform using this table. So we can summarize. For the first one, the test to be performed is F test. For the second one, where we are comparing average cutlet diameters, is 2 sample t test. For the third one, it's Bartlett or Levine based on the normality requirement. For the fourth one, where we are comparing average time for more than 2 categories, it's ANOVA. And for the fifth one, when we are comparing proportions of 2 discrete data, so we have 2 proportion test. Now for every test, once we know the test we need to perform, we'll document 2 hypothesis statements, HO and HA, HO and HA. HO will be the statement of no difference, and HA will be the statement of difference, which can be not equal to and can also be less than or greater than. But the statement of difference will never be equal to. For example, for the first scenario, what will be our statement of no difference? It will be variance A is equal to variance B. Similarly, for the second one, average A is equal to average B. For the last one, it will be proportion A is equal to proportion B. For the third and for the fourth one, since the data, the X factors are more than 2, we'll have a null hypothesis statement as all variances are equal, and for the fourth one, we'll have all averages are equal. So our alternate hypothesis would be variance A is not equal to variance B, average A is not equal to average B, not all variances are equal, not all averages are equal, proportion A is not equal to proportion B. since we are dealing with samples, there is bound to be some error. So the acceptable error rate has to be decided by the person who's performing the test. And there will be two types of errors, type 1 error and type 2 error. Type 1 error is false positive and type 2 error will be false negative. The probability of type 1 error is alpha and probability of type 2 error is beta. 1 minus alpha is called confidence level and 1 minus beta is called power of the test. For example, alpha is equal to 5, the confidence level would be 95%. For beta is equal to 10%, power of the test would be 90%. Now this alpha and beta has to be decided by the person performing the test, because as we lower the alpha and beta, our sample size increases. So the minimum sample size would depend upon alpha and beta. So we'll try to, like, if we don't know the significance or the implication of these alpha and beta, we'll try to go for minimum alpha. Maybe somebody would say that, okay, I would like to have alpha value of 1% and beta value of 1%. But what will be the result of this? This will result in massive sample size. And do we need that much accuracy? That should be the question. Or what is the error that we are okay with? That is, we have to decide. For example, let's assume that we want to compare time taken for two routes A and B for the same origin and destination. Then our null hypothesis would be average time taken for route A is equal to average time taken for route B. The alternative hypothesis would be average time taken for route A is not equal to average time taken for route B. So the type 1 error, that is the false positive, would be that truth is average time taken for route A is equal to average time taken for route B, but we conclude that average time for route A is not equal to average time for route B. Similarly, truth is average time taken for route A is not equal to average time taken for route B, but we conclude average time for route A is equal to average time for route B. This is false negative. Now, why are we making this error? This is because the sample size, the sample that we have taken, that sample misleads us to believing that, for example, for false positive, that though the time taken for route A is equal to time taken for route B, the sample data misleads us to believe that the average time for route A is not equal to average time for route B. So let's assume that we want to, again we are still doing the same example. We want to compare average time for two routes A and B. Average time taken for route A is equal to average time taken for route B. That will be our null hypothesis. Then the alternate hypothesis would be average time taken for route A is not equal to average time taken for route B. Let's assume we'll put alpha is equal to 5% and we would change beta. We'll keep reducing the beta from 10% to 5% to 1% to 0.1%. And for this, we'll assume that minimum difference that we want to observe is 5 minutes. Like the time taken for route A and route B, if it is more than 5 minutes, then only we will say that it's the time taken is more or less. Otherwise, we'll say the time taken is equal. The standard deviation we'll assume as 9 minutes. Now for this given data, let's see what is the sample size. Okay, so now we'll do power and sample size. We'll estimate the sample size for 2 sample t-test, and we'll put the minimum difference required 5 minutes, standard deviation 9 minutes, power value for 10% will be 0.9. We won't change anything over here. Significance level will keep it at 5%, and alternate hypothesis will be not equal to. And then we'll click OK, and then we'll arrive at this sample size. So here alpha is equal to 0.05, power is 0.9, so our beta is 10%, our sample size is 70. So now we'll increase this power from 90 to 95 and then see what will be the sample size. So it changes from 70 to 86. We'll further increase the power of the test from 95 to 99, and the sample size increases to 121. Then if we still want to increase the power of the test to 99.9%, our sample size increases to 167. So we'll just tabulate this and see. So for reducing false negative, when beta was 10%, power was 90%, the sample size was 70. Beta is equal to 5%, power is equal to 95%, the sample size increases to 86. So for 5% increase in power, 16 more additional readings were required. And then we go for beta is equal to 1, so power changes to 99%, the sample size increases to 121. See, for 5% there were 16 more readings required. Now for 4%, 35 more readings are required. So, and now we'll go for beta is equal to 0.1%. So power of the test would be 99.9%. The sample size increases to 167, which is 46 additional readings required for 0.9. I think it should be 0.9 over here. Instead of 0.1, it should be 0.9% of power. So then we have to decide, because from sample size 70 to sample size 167, it is great difference. It is 97. The difference between 70 and 167 is 97, which will cause some increase in time and money. So then we have to decide whether we have to go for beta is equal to 10% or beta is equal to 0.1%. What is the requirement of the test? What are we doing with the test? So these things will determine what to choose as alpha and beta. If nothing is given, then it is very safe to assume that alpha is equal to 5% and beta is equal to 10%. That's the industry standard that will follow unless there is some special requirement. So we have completed most of the steps. Now the steps that are remaining are collect data and perform the test, observe p-value and draw statistical inference, compare p-value to the alpha value considered for sample size determination, and correlate statistical inference with business impact. So let's see. Alpha is the probability of type 1 error, which is the acceptable probability of type 1 error. So it is called the significance level also, and 1 minus alpha is called the confidence level. P value is the actual probability of type 1 error, which is calculated through hypothesis test. So for example, if p value is 0.472, it means that 47.2% probability of incorrectly agreeing to HA, which is way higher than acceptable alpha, which is 5%. Hence we'll stay with null. So if p is greater than 0.05, here we are writing 0.05 because we are assuming that alpha is equal to 0.05. We'll stay with null, and if p is lower than 0.05, then we'll reject null. So how to use this in a test? So we'll just go back. Here we had two examples to compare standard deviation in cutlet diameter of 2 production units and to compare average cutlet diameters of 2 production units. We'll just see. Here we are given a data for unit A and unit B. Here we have 35 samples for cutlets from production unit A and B. Now we'll perform hypothesis test. So the tests that we will perform will be, since we are comparing variance, we'll perform F test. So stat, basic statistics, to variance, each sample in its own column, C1, C2 in the option, since the